Dakota Johnson's story is not just the story of an actress who became famous, it is the story of a woman who grew up surrounded by Hollywood lights, yet still had to fight quietly and patiently to prove that her success was not simply inherited, but earned through resilience, self-discovery, and an unshakable belief in her own voice. And when people look at Dakota Johnson today, they often see confidence, elegance, and global recognition, but what many do not realize is that behind that calm and graceful presence is a journey filled with pressure, doubt, rejection, and the constant challenge of carving out her own identity in a world that already had expectations waiting for her before she even spoke her first line on a film set. Because being born into a famous family can sometimes feel like starting a race where everyone assumes you already know the finish line, yet Dakota refused to let assumptions define her path. Instead, she slowly built a reputation for honesty, courage, and emotional authenticity that would eventually turn her into one of the most recognizable and respected actresses of her generation. And the remarkable thing about Dakota Johnson's rise is that it was never loud or desperate. It was patient, steady, and deeply human. A reminder that real strength often appears quiet on the outside, but powerful within. And this journey begins in Austin, Texas, where Dakota Johnson was born into a family where storytelling was not just a profession but a way of life. Her mother being the talented actress Melanie Griffith and her father the respected actor Dakota Johnson, which meant that cameras, scripts, and film sets were familiar parts of her childhood environment. But growing up surrounded by fame does not automatically prepare someone for the emotional complexity of the entertainment world. In fact, it often creates an even greater challenge because every step you take is compared to the footsteps that came before you, and for Dakota that meant learning very early that she would have to discover who she truly was, not just who people expected her to be. And as she grew older, she developed a deep fascination with storytelling, performance, and the subtle emotional layers that actors bring to life on screen. Yet despite this interest, her path was not smooth or guaranteed. She experienced the same uncertainty that countless young dreamers face when they try to enter an industry known for rejection and unpredictability. And when she first began auditioning, she encountered moments that could easily have discouraged someone less determined, because casting rooms can be places where confidence is tested and self-belief can either collapse or grow stronger. And Dakota chose the second path, understanding that each rejection was not the end of a story, but simply a chapter that would eventually lead her closer to the roles meant for her. And during those early years, she appeared in smaller projects and supporting roles, slowly learning the craft, studying the rhythm of scenes, and observing how experienced actors transformed written dialogue into living emotion. And these early experiences were crucial because they allowed her to develop patience, humility, and an appreciation for the long journey of artistic growth, something many aspiring performers overlook in their rush toward instant fame. But Dakota Johnson was never chasing noise. She was searching for authenticity, and that search eventually led her to a moment that would change her life forever when she was cast as Anastasia Steele in the global phenomenon 50 Shades of Grey, a role that instantly pushed her into the center of international attention and intense public discussion. And while the film became a massive commercial success, the sudden spotlight also brought pressure that few people could fully understand. Because overnight, Dakota Johnson became a name known across continents. Her performances analyzed, her interviews scrutinized, and her every decision discussed by audiences and media around the world. And for many young actors, such overwhelming attention could have been intimidating enough to break their confidence. Yet Dakota approached it with a surprising level of calm honesty, acknowledging the complexity of the role and the responsibility of portraying a character whose story had already sparked millions of conversations. And this period of her life was not simply about fame, it was about learning how to stand in the middle of global attention, while still protecting her personal identity and emotional balance. And what made Dakota Johnson stand out during this time was not just her performance, but her authenticity during interviews and public appearances. She often spoke with refreshing honesty, sometimes humorously acknowledging the awkward realities of the industry, sometimes thoughtfully discussing the importance of artistic freedom and emotional truth, and this sincerity gradually reshaped how audiences perceived her, transforming her image from someone simply associated with a controversial franchise into a respected actress with depth, intelligence, and creative courage. And after the success of 50 Shades, Dakota faced another important crossroads that many actors encounter when a single role defines them in the public eye. She had to decide whether to remain comfortable within that image or to challenge herself with diverse roles that would reveal new layers of her talent. And she chose the second path, exploring independent films, dramatic performances, and unique storytelling projects that allowed her to express vulnerability, humor, and emotional complexity in ways audiences had not yet seen. And this decision demonstrated something powerful about Dakota Johnson's character. She was not interested in repeating the same formula simply because it was successful. She wanted growth, exploration, and artistic honesty, and that commitment led her to collaborate with visionary filmmakers and participate in projects that emphasized atmosphere, emotion, and character-driven storytelling, gradually proving that her abilities extended far beyond a single franchise. And along this journey, Dakota also became known for her subtle yet powerful screen presence, the kind of performance style that does not rely on dramatic exaggeration but instead communicates emotion through quiet expressions, pauses, and the smallest changes in tone, a skill that many critics and directors admire because it reflects deep understanding of human psychology and authentic acting technique. And this ability to convey complex feelings with minimal gestures allowed her to shine in films that required introspection and emotional realism, strengthening her reputation as a performer capable of delivering layered, thoughtful portrayals that resonate with audiences long after the credits roll. And while her professional career continued to grow, Dakota Johnson also embraced a broader creative vision by becoming involved in production and storytelling behind the camera, understanding that influence in the film industry extends beyond acting alone. And this transition marked another important evolution in her journey because it showed her determination to shape stories rather than simply appear in them, reflecting a deeper commitment to the art of filmmaking itself. And beyond her professional achievements, Dakota Johnson's story carries a message that resonates far beyond Hollywood. It reminds people that identity cannot be borrowed from family legacy, fame cannot replace authenticity, and success becomes meaningful only when it aligns with personal truth. And through years of steady dedication, emotional honesty, and quiet determination, she has demonstrated that real strength often grows in silence. In moments when no one is watching, when decisions are made not for applause but for integrity. And this is perhaps the most inspiring element of her journey because it proves that greatness does not always arrive with noise and spectacle. Sometimes it arrives gradually through courage, patience, and the willingness to remain genuine even when the world expects you to become something else. And today, Dakota Johnson stands not only as a successful actress, but also as a symbol of individuality in an industry that often pressures people to conform, her career reflecting a delicate balance between vulnerability and confidence, tradition and independence, fame and authenticity. And as her story continues to unfold, she reminds audiences everywhere that the most powerful journeys are not those that begin perfectly, but those that evolve through persistence, courage, and the quiet belief that every person has the ability to shape their own narrative regardless of where they start. And that is why Dakota Johnson's story continues to inspire millions of people who see in her journey a reflection of their own hopes, doubts, and determination to rise above expectations and create a life that truly belongs to them.